Hey, what's happening everyone? Welcome back to another video. Pragmatic Addict here. So this is a very anticipated time. I just got out of the theater from seeing the Super Mario Brothers movie. Now there's been a lot of hype around this movie and a lot of controversy going into the hype. Yes, obviously there have been like 3 fucking Nintendo Directs promoting this film. The man, the myth, the legend himself, Miyamoto, has been just promoting this thing left and right. There have been multiple fucking TV spots, like pretty much had to do a social media blackout if you did not want to see anything about this movie. Even before the film's actual release, Charlie Day had already said that he would be interested in doing like a Luigi's Mansion spin-off movie that is possibly in the works. Chris Pratt even said, yes, make sure you stay after the movie. There will be a couple post-credit scenes that you will not be disappointed by, which I did see, which, yeah, stay after that goddamn movie. But yes, there have been, obviously, some controversial opinions as well, you know, as far as Chris Pratt voicing Mario, which I was on the fence of. When I first heard the news, I was like, you're finally doing the movie. You're finally doing a movie after 30 years of something that we all try to forget. And you cast Chris Pratt. But you also got the voice, the original voice actor of Mario in the movie as a cameo. What are you guys doing, huh? Think this is funny? But during the trailer, when we did first get the reveal of his voice,
Mushroom Kingdom, here we come.
I was not actually too against it. I was like, okay, yeah, it sounds like, you know, Chris Pratt doing Mario. It doesn't sound like the Mario we needed, but it doesn't sound as god-awful as I was kind of fearing. But of course, guys, we will get to all that and plenty more in this review, so let's just sit down and talk about the Super Mario Brothers movie. So the first thing I want to talk about actually is Bowser. So from the trailer that we got, the very first trailer, where we saw Bowser, it kind of reminded me of the little side game Bowser's Fury that came out just a couple years ago. Now, I am a longtime Mario fan. I grew up with the GameCube. That was my first console that was actually my own after like the Dreamcast that was for the household and everything. So I played all the Mario bangers. Mario Sunshine, Luigi's Mansion, obviously all the good Mario parties. I played the core peak Mario games at my prime, just fucking 9 years old. Bowser always just seemed like, yeah, a family-friendly enough video game boss. And it wasn't until Bowser's Fury that was included in the Mario 3D World Deluxe on the Switch where I was like, oh, metal. I mean, I was sweating playing that, dude. That was only like an hour game, and that thing was terrifying. And when I saw the trailer, that reminded me so much of it, seeing his fortress kind of come in and seeing him with all the flames and everything, and just watching this movie. It is dark. There are many times where he's just straight up like, yeah, who the fuck is this Mario guy? Whoever he is, I don't like him. He's got my wife, Peach, which obviously we know the story that isn't really his wife, but he's just a narcissistic asshole. There are many times in this movie where he'll have like prisoners in cages, and he's talking about like ritualistic sacrifices, saying how he's going to burn them alive and crush every bone in their body. Reminded me of like a scene from Toy Story 3. It was terrifying. Like, I was watching this movie and I'm like, damn, this really is morbid. They really brought out the Bowser's Fury version of Bowser for this movie, and I thought that was great. Now, going into the Mario Brothers, so I have a lot of thoughts about them, and probably the most, like, criticisms I have toward the movie as a whole. Now, here's what I will say. Luigi, spot on. Sounds like Luigi, acts like Luigi, looks like Luigi. He's very kind of like clumsy in that Luigi fashion, very kind of nervous. Kind of remind me a little bit of like Piglet at times, as did Toad in this movie, which I am just gonna do a little bit of a deep dive to all the characters here. So I'm just gonna get this right, just clean out. I'm just gonna get this over with. Mario, he was sadly my least favorite character of the movie, but when talking about the characters, and it really is a mixed bag, because I will say, I was kind of mixed on all the voice actors. I'm like, okay, Jack Black as Bowser, I guess. Chris Pratt as Mario, why? Charles Martinet, why is he even in the movie if he's not going to be playing an insult? That poor guy and the poor fans. And then even Seth Rogen as Donkey Kong, where it was just a matter of like, well, who the fuck knows how this is gonna go. What I will say is that the characters that I was not really, like, excited about, per se, but, like, the ones I was just kind of like, oh, okay, Keegan-Michael Key as Toad. Alright then. They were actually some of my favorite characters. Keegan-Michael Key as Toad feels like Keegan-Michael Key as Toad.
Do not touch that mushroom, you'll die! Oh, I'm sorry. That one's perfectly fine.
He's always just unapologetically, innocently morbid. He also kind of reminds me of Piglet. He's always feels like he's having like an anxiety attack or something. He's always just very overboard and wanting to be a part of the missions and trying to be like the hero and everything. Seth Rogen as Donkey Kong. It's funny because before the movie played, they had a trailer for the Ninja Turtles movie that Seth Rogen is doing, and it was like, from the forever teenager Seth Rogen. And I'm like, that's a interesting way to promote his name. Kind of true though. Him as Donkey Kong, it fucking works. He feels like a douche. He feels rambunctious. He feels very teenage and just kind of, you know, trying to do things for Cranky Kong, which his dad's sake, where he's got to be this beast and be this kind of like intimidating ape. He's just really trying to find his place in the Mushroom Kingdom. I thought that was great. I thought the story arcs were all good. Anya Taylor-Joy as Peach. Felt like Anya Taylor-Joy playing Peach. I felt her personality. I felt her mannerisms. And one thing that I was kind of mixed on, well, at least in the beginning, is that based on how the movie started, which I will get into in a minute here, but based on how it started, I was kind of like, well, this is only a 90-minute movie. I feel like this isn't going to give us that much depth that maybe it could, or maybe that we would be hoping for. But I was really surprised to see the lores of some of these characters. Again, like Peach, for example, there is some lore to her character. And it was just one of those things where it was like, I appreciated the effort put into it. But now getting to the actual, like, my first thoughts of the movie. Yeah, so one thing I will say, which I did also appreciate the effort put into it, but the way that Mario and Luigi's backgrounds are kind of fleshed out. So you get that background where you see them as plumbers in their, you know, regular lives before they get sucked into the Mushroom Kingdom and become the actual video game icons that we know them for. Now, I'm going to do my best to stay out of spoiler territory, but as far as the backgrounds go, there was more than I was expecting, but not in the good sense where I was just like, wow, they actually put that much detail into it. I was not expecting that. No, it was the thing where I was just like, I get it, and maybe it's necessary to an extent, and maybe it will surprise fans in its sense. But just based off of what they showed as a background, from someone who grew up as a Mario fan, playing the games and is still a Mario fan, he's one of the most beloved and most well-known icons in history. I just wasn't, I guess, expecting to see the background that we kind of got for them, and I don't think it was really that necessary. Again, I appreciated the effort and I respected it, but I just don't think that was really necessary or quite the tone or pacing that we really needed for this movie. It just didn't feel right for me. And talking more about pacing, even just getting from like point A to point B in the movie, at least in the first half or so, maybe the first act of the movie, it was definitely a rocky start. Or it did kind of give me those thoughts where I was like, okay, this is like a 90-minute movie. We've gotten 3 trailers about this movie, dozens of TV spots. Why is the plot details still so scarce? It's kind of one of those things where I was like, oh, that's why. Which, this may come out as like a spoiler or like a disappointing spoiler to some, but it's just my thoughts on it. The first act of the movie, it did feel like that case where it was just like, they don't really have much of a plot. They're just kind of doing enough to give fans what they want. Yeah, we're gonna sprinkle in some, you know, Easter eggs every other scene and get these 2 sumbitches to the fucking Mushroom Kingdom and make this all wrap up with, you know, the go-kart sequence and having Donkey Kong come in and their origin story with him and Mario based off of that, and even like hints to like Luigi's Mansion, all in this 90-minute movie, with also doing a pretty, again, whatever you want to call it, fleshed out background to the Mario Brothers that, again, I still don't think was fully necessary. But once Mario actually gets to the Mushroom Kingdom, which I do think that this is, yes, obviously where the film really picks up, it really does pick up everything from seeing the Peach's castle. As a Mario 64 fan especially, seeing this castle, man, it was vibrant, it was detailed, it was gorgeous, it was exploratory. It just felt adventurous enough, not to the full extent I think that people are going to be hoping for. And that's kind of like how I feel about this Mario movie. There are a lot of things where I'm just like, that's a really weird route to go down, and it's very underwhelming even in that sense. But there are, you know, a lot of things, for example, like the DK sequence, the Peach's castle, where I do feel like they do drown out the flaws in this movie, but they're still not the best to the abilities that they could have made with how big and how hyped this movie was being promoted as. This is a movie, I think, that where you do just kind of have to give it a chance. It has a bumpy start, yes, and even the things that are better and deliver the most out of the movie, they're not to the fullest that they could be. The movie is also just very humorous and very zany and wacky to, I think, the point where it could have been toned down a little bit. I guess just like with the Mario movie, or like the Mario games, there hasn't been too much humor. Again, like, sure, Toad and even Luigi and Donkey Kong, they are a little bit, you know, kind of like wacky characters. They have some mannerisms to them that could come off a little bit quirky and everything. But I guess just like this film, just as it being a real, like, fucking comedy, which it actually is. I mean, I was laughing my ass off for a lot of this movie. And I'm glad I got that, don't get me wrong, it's a good feeling, but I just was not expecting it out of this movie. I was just expecting this movie to be a little bit more serious than I guess it was. And what it comes down to, guys, is just, yeah, in the end of it, again, it is a pretty mixed bag. There is more good in this movie than bad, though in saying that the good qualities of this movie, it definitely felt like it wasn't to the fullest of this film's abilities. And in the end, guys, yeah, I mean, I'd give this film a pass. It's a thumbs up. Finally, yeah, this inevitable sequel that is coming, and maybe even the spin-off of Luigi's Mansion. I do think that the movie delivered enough where I'm like, okay, this could go a million fucking routes. They could make 1,000 sequels to this movie and still have plenty to give. I mean, this is a wide, expansive, you know, like, product. And yeah, after seeing this movie, I am interested enough to see where they will go with a sequel. Now, whether I would want a sequel over a Luigi's Mansion movie if I had to pick, I do want to see a Luigi's Mansion movie. That was a very eerie, very different Mario game as a kid, and I love my horror movies, and I would love to see Luigi actually get the spotlight, give him his treatment, give him what's right. But at the end of it, yeah, I hope we get a sequel. I hope we get a Luigi's Mansion spin-off film. I like the film enough. But yes, guys, that's going to do it for my Super Mario Bros. Movie review. Let me know what you thought about this movie. Did you guys like it? How did you guys feel it compared to the video games? Would you guys rather get a sequel or a Luigi's Mansion spin-off movie first? Let me know in the comments below, guys. But yes, I'm going to wrap it up here. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you guys are having a great day. Take care.